What's going on, everybody? Happy Tuesday. 4-game NBA slate, NBA Hardwood show. DC with the Chiefs in the stash. Mangone with the RPS. I got RPS on as well. Hope everybody out there is having a great day. 4-game slate. The Bucks, the talking point on this slate. No Giannis. Middleton's still out. KD's also out. Waiting on some injury news, too. Who knows when we'll get it. But DC, I'll start with you. Mangone needs a little break. The dude already put in a full shift today on Twitter with that thread. If you didn't know and checked it out, go on Twitter. Mangone broke down the whole slate perfect. Excited to hear what else he has to add, but he needs a little break right now. DC, I'll throw it to you. What's going on, man?
Yeah, well, I mean, what's the point of even having Mangone here? We already know his entire thoughts for the whole slate. Did it free for the people, but we'll go a little bit more in depth, I'm sure, on the show. Things are good. You know, the day after the 3-day NFL watching bender can be a rough one. So I did get out for a 10-mile run today. It was a struggle every step of the way, but hey, you know, burned off all those toxins in the body and ready to have a few days of NBA here before the next round of NFL, which will obviously be awesome coming up this weekend. So excited to break it down with you guys.
Yeah, it was a very fun football weekend. The next week, we get Saturday, Sunday. The week after, we just get one day and 2 games. I saw DraftKings 4-game. They're doing the 4-game, all the main slate both days is their only thing. I mean, I wish they did it I wish they had normal on Saturday, normal Sunday, and then they combine it like they had last week. I mean, you could feel good action in all of those, but
I'm sure they'll have Saturday and Sunday only slates, right?
I hope so.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely will on Sunday because obviously the Saturday stuff will already have started, but yeah, there'll be plenty of action to go around. That's for sure.
Mangone, what's going on, man? NFL, how's your weekend? Basketball, the slate, what's going on?
Yeah, there'll be plenty of NFL stuff this weekend. I'm excited, and this weekend's a lot of fun. Like DC said, this past weekend's a bit of a grind, right? But this is where it starts, especially from the content side, right? It starts to get a little bit quieter, right? We get to actually enjoy these really great football teams too, and watch some good games. There were some good ones last week, but then some you're just like, man, they seem brutal. I know our boy Stevie Boynton was making fun of the Skylar Thompson show, but hey, sometimes you get surprised and you never know what's going to happen. We could see some upsets this weekend. You never know. I think DC's Chiefs might be in a little bit of trouble with the Jaguars, but should be a fun.
I wouldn't be shocked. The Jaguars, yeah, I mean, they got all the momentum in the world. I do think we've got probably the 8 best teams left to play here. I mean, I think you can make a good argument for that. Get the fraud Bucks and fraud Chargers out of here. But yeah, I mean, Lawrence, you know, a quarterback like him, he's at least got a chance, right, against anybody who's live. Like, it comes down to the wire, and you feel pretty good that he might be able to get the job done. So I think he's going to put up some points on him, though. I'll say that much.
I went to the gym today, DC, and they had a little, they had these surveys, things that people fill out, just fun, little quizzes. And it was or not quizzes, but just trivia stuff. It's who do you think's going to win the Super Bowl, right? There, all the teams are up there. There's no tally next to the Jaguars. I thought about putting my name next to it, right? Just put a little tally next to the Jags because everyone's on the Chiefs. I mean, you got I want to see where's the public, right? Just random people that aren't really following sports as closely. And it seems like all the tallies are on the Chiefs. So
I jumped in a couple more best balls over at Underdog. Obviously, we did a bunch of them leading up to the start of the playoffs, but they've got new big tournaments up that you can jump in if you want. And you can still get the Jaguars are the last team to go, right? Yeah. You can finish your draft, Lawrence, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, and Christian Kirk, stuff like that if you want to. And obviously they got to beat the Chiefs, but stranger things have happened. I think all 4 games. All 4 games. I could see going any direction.
I did 2 of those actually, and I noticed because the quarterbacks go early, right? You Allen, Mahomes, and Burrow. And I know it's not a best ball show, but it was really interesting because if you wait to get your quarterbacks left are Trevor Lawrence and Daniel Jones and
Dak goes late too.
Yeah. It's actually a super interesting point on I would not mind, I don't know. I'm assuming we'll have some more best ball shows on it. We'll have to see, but it's very interesting if you do some drafts, the strategy behind it with this round now with how everything's set up.
Yeah. So what they're talking about for the people that don't know, best ball, obviously the regular season, we did a bunch for the playoffs. But the Underdog, they came out called the Gauntlet 2, I believe, or something like that. 75K up top, I believe. And it's just the same thing as the normal Underdog playoffs. We don't have to worry about the bye weeks, obviously, with everyone playing from now on out. So pick your Super Bowl matchups, huge prize pools up top. Yeah, we'll be in the Discord for sure. I might have more shows for the playoffs as well. But
yeah, if you haven't signed up, Title, right, there's a code, right? Run Pure gets you a $100 match deposit bonus. So, hey, if you could still use it now, right? Just because basketball playoffs have started. And let's say you get into golf streets and other type of contests, you can still use that code Run Pure, get you a $100 match deposit.
And if you haven't signed up for Run Pure Sports in general, promo code DC15 for 15% off.
There we go.
There you go. You got DC15 for 15% off at Run Pure Sports. You got Run Pure for $100 match. DC cracking himself up. That's a good one. I knew that he was going right when you leaned in for the mic. Let's say hi to a couple people. We got 4 games. We got some time today. Let's say hi to some people in chat. It's just Lila. We got Nadesify, Paraby, Mr. Mike's daddy. What's going on, man? Marquis, Isaac, Bill Miner, Paraby, Spear, Noel Fan, Young God, Kid, Thomas, Mike. A lot of people talking about your mustache. Dustin Daniel in here. Mike Savage, Randone, CDome, Chunky Blue, Did the Spidey, a lot of words in that. So Ducks, Dr. Lucky. Someone asked Nadesify about my hat. I got it at Buc-ee's. So it says something, Salty Crew. I don't know exactly what it is. Got it at Buc-ee's, the best gas station in the world. Quick Trips behind it. I'm sorry. But yeah, that's all I know about the hat. Fits the head well. It's all that matters. But we got 4 games on the slates. Man, I'll start with you since you definitely did your due diligence on this slate already. You can give the people a deep dive before we get into it, but it's the Bucks. Giannis out, I assume. Talk about what your initial breakdown is, though.
Yeah, before we do the deep dive, too, I should mention this, and I'll probably mention it a couple times in the show, but the Up the Lock show is not going to be in the normal place, right? I just want to let the people know, like, if you are trying to watch Big T and JSU, you can watch it, but you have to go to playback-Run Pure Sports. We'll be tweeting out the links and everything, but that's where you can watch the NBA games. And JSU and Big T are going to be sweating the games later on, but they're going to be going live at 7 p.m. It's a 7:30 lock, so we got like a 30-minute buffer for more than normal. But all you have to do is you have to make a free playback account. That's it. You don't have to have your TV provider hooked up. Just got to make an account so you can watch it. So go do that now, right? Don't wait until Up the Lock when everything's getting crazy. So make sure to do that so you can see Big T and JSU at 7 p.m. and then sweat the games with them. As long as you hook up your TV provider for that, it should be a very simple process, but do it now so you don't have to worry about it later. But yeah, let's dive into this slate because there's a lot to talk about. Couple key notes. So one, it's a Bucks and Nets slate, right? Like you're playing Bucks and Nets. If you go in and you X every single Buck and Net out of your teams, you will probably lose tonight. You have to play some. The question will be how many. So we'll obviously get to that as we break down each spot. We also have Kyrie Irving, who is questionable, which will make the Nets even better plays. And we'll discuss the if-thens, if he's in, if he's out. We also have Jamal Murray questionable, which is a big piece of news because if Jamal Murray sits, there could be some later Nuggets values that pop up that you can't completely ignore on this slate. I'm not saying backload and wait for that news because this news earlier on is going to be more important in my opinion, but I don't think I'd completely sleep on those Nuggets options. And when we discuss the Nets as well, some Spurs' runbacks are not completely crazy because when you're just missing a ton of guys, it's easy to score on them. So there's a lot of different moving parts. If we talk position by position real quick, and then I'll throw it back to you, Title. Guard is a spot where I think a lot of people are spending right now. Forward, I don't think a lot of people are spending because there's only 2 options above 7.8K. Scotty Barnes is at 7.7, and no one's trying to get to him anyways at that price, and no one's dying to play Keldon Johnson. But there's 2 guys. It's Paul George, who's questionable, and Kawhi Leonard, who's above 10K. So I don't think many builds are even spending at forward. I think most constructions are spending at the guard position. Obviously, the Kyrie Irving news will be really important for that. And then the center spot, because there's so much value there between the Bucks options, the Nets options, and just so many others, you're going to see guys like Jokic up top. You might see someone like Nurkic as well. And Joel Embiid just go completely unknown. So the route to flip the build today is spend up at center. And the common route that a lot of people are going are slamming in Bucks and Nets, which you should play them. You just got to figure out how to do it. And then spending up at the guard position. Great
initial breakdown there. The first game of the night is the Bucks. So I'm not even going to get to DC as the initial breakdown. Mangone did a good job there. A lot of Bucks. DC is going to break down this first game. Before we get into it, though, all we ask on this show, like button, big red subscribe button. Saw a couple people in here. They said it was your first. Alex Kaiser, new to the shows. Let's get it, fellas. Welcome, Alex. We appreciate you. And then Jonathan Fisher. I got to show this comment. Made me laugh. High title, Mangone, and Uncle T. It does look like Uncle T a little bit over there with that mustache. So good call there, Jonathan Fisher. But we'll get into it. First game of the night, Milwaukee Bucks. Again, this slate, I didn't actually say it yet. 30 minutes after than usual, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. this slate locks 4 games all at 4 different times. So first game, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Milwaukee Bucks, Toronto Raptors, 222 total. Bucks are favored by 1.5. Giannis is still going to be out. Chris Middleton is out. Going to the Toronto side, they're fully healthy. I mean, Otto Porter, that means absolutely nothing. Middleton's been out. Giannis been out for the past couple games, though. Drew Holiday, Joe Ingles, Bobby Portis, Grayson Allen, Brooke Lopez, Pat Connaughton. I mean, you name the guy, I think they're in play. DC, how many's too many? Who are your favorites? And talking about the Toronto side, I don't know. If you're playing $4, you have to run it back. Do you have some favorites? Break down this game for us.
Yeah, Toronto side, unless we get unexpected news, which doesn't look like we will. I mean, I think one of the least interesting teams, one of the worst teams to target on this slate. You're not getting any discounts. I mean, Mangone talked about that huge price tag on Scotty Barnes. You don't love the matchup for a guy like, Fred VanVleet's got to go up against Drew Holiday defense. I just don't really see it necessarily with Toronto. Even Siakam had one of his worst games of the year against the Bucks when they last played. So I'm pretty much off of Toronto, or at least that's the plan as of now. Obviously, the Bucks are more interesting, but I see a lot of good plays on the Bucks, but nothing that I think you really have to play. Drew Holiday, I think, is by far the best play on the Bucks. He's sitting at 8K right now. Like, you see a lot of times when a star is out. Obviously, the guys that are kind of next in line in terms of the stardom rating or whatever you would want to call it, get a boost. But it's especially big with Giannis. Drew Holiday's role completely changes, right? Because Giannis just does so much that Drew Holiday actually becomes like a true kind of ball-dominant point guard when Giannis and, of course, Middleton are off the court. You could look at like potential assists over the last game. Drew Holiday had 23 of them, 10 assists. I mean, he could have had a 14, 15 assists last game out. He can obviously score pretty well, contribute elsewhere. So, yeah, Holiday is a guy I do want to fade. He is a priority for me. From there, I think it gets trickier. I mean, like Portis and Lopez they've been okay in these last 3 games, but nothing special, especially from Lopez. I was kind of playing them together. I'm kind of shying away from that a little bit right now. I'm not sure that they're both going to go off, especially with Holiday. I think it's just asking too much. So both fine plays. I think Portis is the guy with higher upside, but Lopez a little bit cheaper. So I do like both guys a little bit, but I think I want to split them up. And then, I think you could choose one of the wings, but I think I would limit it to one. Actually, I think my favorite guy is Joe Ingles tonight, sitting at 3,500 on DraftKings. Looks like he's kind of coming into a bigger role for this team. Obviously, that role much bigger when Giannis and Middleton are off the court, but he kind of looks like he's the secondary playmaker almost behind Drew Holiday. Going to be out there, I think, almost all the time when Holiday's off the court. Good chance of closing, I think, this game if it's close. And, the minutes concerns are kind of gone at this point. He's played 20-plus minutes in 3 straight games. So I do think Ingles, has a chance to get to 30 minutes in this one. He was a much more expensive player than 3,500 when he was on that Jazz team, right, which wasn't too long ago. I don't think this is that dissimilar of a situation playing for the Bucks now that they're missing Giannis and Middleton. I think they kind of need him out there to distribute. He's obviously a good corner 3-point shooter, so could get hot, make a few of those. And, perhaps most importantly, he's super cheap, right? The cheaper a guy is, the least he can hurt you if he has a bad game, and the more it helps if he does go off. So for me, yeah, Holiday my favorite, Ingles second, and then I would probably pick one of Portis and Lopez. But I'm not going too crazy with this Bucks team right now.
You think you'll make a rule like max of 3 or something?
3, yep.
3, yeah. Man, go to you. Talk what DC said. One thing that stood out was the Bobby Portis, Brooke Lopez. So he thinks he'll probably max one of them. What are your thoughts on that rule? Chunky Blue in chat. Value with Wara? ? He played 23 minutes yesterday. Good thing with Wara is when he's in, he's going to chuck. Joe Ingles is going to be one of the most popular players on the slate. It looks like with the value, maybe a little leverage there. Man, go and break down this game for us.
Yeah, one thing worth calling out, like starting lineups definitely matter, right? And if you see like Jordan Nwora could randomly start, right? I'm not saying he will, but like sometimes that stuff happens. And like a great example was Beauchamp the other day, right? Like I know Beauchamp was someone that ended up starting for the Bucks last week, ended up being like 50% owned on a slate with a ton of value and ended up dudding. And like you just faded him, that was already like a really, big thing that happened that helped you out. And I think one of the things to think about sometimes is, who's in that lineup, and like they only play with one basketball. Obviously, Drew Holiday and Bobby Portis, they are going to produce, right? The one thing I do worry about with Drew Holiday, and we'll start there, is they are playing the Raptors, and the Raptors love the box and one, right? They see someone that's a shooter. They end up trying to just, make sure he doesn't shoot his shots. Now, Drew's a really great defender. He can pick up his stats via assists and rebounds as well. He can produce in so many different ways. But it is worth calling out that he is at a price tag that he has to produce, right, at 8K. There are routes where if Drew Holiday gets you 45, you're happy with it. But is that a slate winner and you've won the GPPs? No, you're not perfectly happy with it for sure. You think it's fine, but you're not just like, oh, I just won the slate. So think about that a little bit when rostering these expensive guys. Same thing with Bobby Portis. But Bobby Portis is an elite producer. I kind of agree with DC's take. And the one thing that I think is really, really key between Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez. Bobby Portis, yes, he is more expensive at 7K. But what does he have that Brook Lopez doesn't? He has power forward eligibility, where Brook Lopez does not at 5.8K. And I'll tell you this, center is kind of loaded tonight. Like there's a lot of different guys that I could talk myself into tonight. So overall, I think I prefer Portis over Lopez because of that. And I do not mind grouping them away like it was kind of discussed. Joe Ingles is a cheap option at 3.5K. I kind of discussed earlier that the small forward position is not a spot that a lot of people will be spending up at. I think they're going to be kind of either going to Ingles or like kind of hammering that mid-range with a lot of different options. So I think Ingles could be a really good play that you want to go to. If you kind of keep going here, I'm kind of interested to see what people are doing with like Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen, because at first when I was looking at stuff, I was like, man, Connaughton and Allen are in a pretty interesting spot here against the Raptors, especially if you do see the box and one against Drew, right? Because that's going to open up shots at the elbow and in the corner. And those are the two guys that can benefit. The question is, do you want to spend 4.6K on Grayson Allen and 4.8K on Pat Connaughton when you have other pieces on the Nets that are really good guard and forward options, and we don't have the news on Kyrie? Because if Kyrie is out, there are some very interesting options on the Nets. So that's going to be a really, really big talking point, is which Bucks kind of like 4 and 5K guys do you play at that guard and forward spot and versus the Nets one? So that's obviously an interesting discussion to talk about. And I'm curious to see what happens with Beauchamp if he randomly does start again, because he has not been great. And, he graded out well last time. And a lot of the times what happens with projections is the guy, duds, and then he graded out great the first time. He doesn't always grade out great the second time. So that's another thing to call out that you might notice when kind of building out your lineups and looking at projections and different things like that. Agree with DC's points on the Raptors side. There's just really no one I'm dying to get to. You could maybe talking into Pascal Siakam at 9.8K. But if I'm going up this after the center spot, it feels like I just want to grab Jokic or Embiid instead rather than a Pascal Siakam. So that's kind of one of the issues.
Looking at the matchups for Portis and Lopez, I do wonder if this maybe is a Lopez game. He had a huge game against the Raptors last time out, grabbed 19 rebounds in that game. And Lopez is, when Milwaukee's fully healthy on offense, he pretty much just stands in the corner and is a three-point shooter. But that could maybe change here a little bit because, could they post him up against, give him some post touches? Siakam is, obviously a really good player, but massively undersized against Lopez, I think. And the rest of those Raptor centers that they might throw at Lopez aren't that good. Whereas Portis, he's going to have to go up against, I think, quite a bit of Anunoby, who's a fantastic defender, and Scotty Barnes is pretty good in his own right. So maybe they lean on Lopez a little bit more here. Just something to think about there. I could see Milwaukee going that way. Obviously, their whole offense has kind of got to change a little bit with no Giannis out there. So Lopez has been slow, not great in these last few games, but I do think his upside remains intact. Maybe this is a game he gets there.
Well, it's fair, DC, because of Drew Holiday, right? If they do throw two bodies at Drew, what happens is the ball starts moving, right? And then it lands on Brook Lopez for corner threes. And if he feels like he has enough room to shoot, he's willing to fire for sure. In the chat, someone said, isn't Beauchamp in the G League? From what I'm seeing, and again, you guys, sometimes before writing in the chat, people get to panic. Like, look yourselves. Beauchamp got recalled, it sounds like, from the G League on Tuesday. So it seems like Beauchamp is back.
They send him there after he was chalk and dudded. They're like, get to the G League, you go.
Yeah, they put him in the G League, and now he's back, and people will definitely be worried to play him. But if he starts, projections are naturally going to pump him in there. But he's also not the same price as last time. He's 3.7 now. He's not 3.1 like he was. And also, you have to compare what is a guy like Beauchamp versus other values that we might get. For instance, if Kyrie is in, that is going to hurt like Royce O'Neal and all those other options. They're still good plays, but it's not going to benefit them as much, where you might be considering more of these Bucks options. So that Kyrie questionable news is massive for this slate.
Well, this Bojan, because when you were talking, I saw that person in chat. So like I saw one report 3 hours ago saying that he was sent to the G League 3 hours ago saying that he was recalled back to the NBA with the Bucks. And then an hour ago, I saw him and Middleton were assigned to the G League with the Herd. So
really? Okay. So I was just going off and not always the best idea to go off the DraftKings.
I saw 2 reports within 3 hours saying the complete opposite.
Why would you recall and then put him back, right? That's like I'd never seen that, which is crazy.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll have to look at a little more. Mangone, you try and look a little more in depth than that. Again, the last report an hour ago said him and Middleton to the G League.
To be fair, Title, his name could be Peter Christensen, right? The point I'm getting at here is like if he's a cheap option and he's starting, you have to consider it. And like even if he's not there, that's huge, because if he's not there, then that's going to help other guys out. So
don't compare me to that bum. I'm way better than that bum on the slab.
The dude's like 19 years old. He's got lots of grow for sure. But yeah, I mean, it definitely matters. He was playing NBA minutes the past couple games without Giannis. He started that one game. I'd be another body down in the rotation. So yeah, Mangone, if you could try and figure that out, I'm going to go based on what I saw last, saying him and Middleton are in the G League. But
I'll keep looking.
Yeah, hopefully we find some clarification on that. We did spend a lot of time on the first game. The Bucks are a huge talking point on this slate. There's only 4 games on the slate. In this next game, the Brooklyn Nets, we'll get it right into it. They're also the biggest talking point on the slate. So 30 minutes later, 8 p.m. Eastern, Brooklyn Nets, San Antonio Spurs, 229.5 total. Brooklyn is favored by 4. Kevin Durant is out for this game. Kyrie is questionable. Obviously, if Kyrie misses, I mean, the Bucks would still be great plays, but I think Brooklyn would definitely take them over without Kyrie and KD. Going over to the Spurs side, Devin Vassell is out. Doug McDermott is questionable. DC, I'll go to you. How does guys like Seth Curry, Josh Richardson, Royce O'Neal, Nick Claxton, Ben Simmons, how do all those guys compare to like the Bobby Portis, Joe Ingles, Grayson Allen, Brooke Lopez of the world? Do you like the Bucks guys more? You like the Nets guys more? How many Nets too many? What does Kyrie news do? Break it all down for us.
Obviously, a lot depends on the Kyrie news. But this team is difficult, I think, even if Kyrie does sit out. Now, if Kyrie sits, I think you got to get at least probably 2, maybe a lot more Nets into your lineup. But, I mean, they do still have plenty of bodies. I mean, guys like Patty Mills, Cam Thomas, right? Guys that don't even play that many minutes could easily enter the rotation and kind of spoil the parties for Seth Curry and Sumner, Joe Harris. I mean, yeah, like I said, they had a lot. Last game, Ben Simmons sat out, and you saw Royce O'Neal kind of take over. I mean, he, based on the numbers, he was like the almost like the primary distributing guy. He had 8 assists. I think he had 18, 19 potential assists, something like that. But that'll change a little bit with Simmons back in there, right? Simmons will kind of retake over that role unless Kyrie misses. And then maybe you see kind of Royce O'Neal take the Kyrie playmaking duties and Ben Simmons kind of share those with him. But like Simmons is, I mean, what does he have? 0 points 0 points last game. He hasn't attempted a free throw in the last 3 games, 10 total points. But I mean, if you're going to go off in any game, it would be this game against the Spurs, right? Terrible defensively. You can get in passing lanes, maybe get out on the break. So if Kyrie misses, I do think Ben Simmons, you've at least got to consider him. I would like Royce O'Neal at that point. I would like Sumner and Seth Curry and Joe Harris, all those guys to some degree. But, I mean, differentiating between Sumner and Curry and Harris, and it's tricky, I think, at least to me. So we'll see with Kyrie. Obviously, if he's out, it is going to open up a lot of usage. And you do, somebody's got to score. But, TJ Warren, another guy that could step in and have a big game, not randomly, but you just don't necessarily know who it's going to be with this Nets team. You got Nick Claxton there, of course, who's capable of a big performance, but getting a little pricey at 7,200. If Kyrie plays, I'll probably have fewer Nets, I think, than most people. I might end up even just playing Kyrie himself. I know he's expensive at 9,900, but I do think he could go absolutely crazy in this matchup. I'd have lower interest in a guy like Royce O'Neal now that Ben Simmons is back, assuming Kyrie's in there. And then, I don't know. I don't think I would really want to go to guys like Curry and Joe Harris and those types. So we'll just have to see on the Kyrie news. Obviously, might not get this till after that first game. And a lot of the value plays obviously are in Milwaukee and then potentially in Brooklyn. So could be a tricky situation where, we might get that Kyrie news like 5 minutes before lock on the slate or something like that, in which case it'll be kind of a scramble to try to, get in the proper Milwaukee and Brooklyn guys. So certainly something to kind of prepare for as we get closer to lock.
Any Spurs for you?
I certainly think you can, especially if Kyrie is out, because then at that point, I think they've got a much better chance to compete, have it be a close game. It would be, I think, Trey Jones, Josh Richardson, and Keldon Johnson, the three guys I would look at most closely. 7,400 for Keldon does feel like a lot. He just doesn't seem like a huge ceiling. So, yeah, Trey Jones and Josh Richardson probably my two favorites.
Yeah, I've definitely been burned by Keldon a lot more than he's done me right this year. That's for sure. Got one other name for you before I go to Mangone, because you were talking pretty much all the Nets. You didn't mention one. Andrew Martinez brought him up in chat. Watanabe. He's played 21 minutes the past two games. I take it he's in the same boat as Seth, as Joe Harris. If Kyrie's out, you can get to him. If he's in, you'd rather the Bucks guys?
Yeah, I don't think I'll go to Watanabe. I mean, doesn't seem to do a whole lot. So I get that he's super cheap, but definitely not if Kyrie plays, and probably not anyway.
Mangone, Watanabe, the whole net situation, Kyrie in. I mean, no KD. Like Christopher Wells saying, no, you can't play Kyrie over Dame, all that. I mean, no KD in this situation. The Spurs, I think Kyrie's a great play if he plays. If he's out, how many nets too many? Compare him to the Bucks. The first two games, we're just going to spend a lot of time on these first two games. These next two, I think, are going to go by a lot quicker. So break down this one for us, Mango.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll talk a lot here about this situation. I just posted in the chat the usage rates from my thread. If you guys want to check out the usage rate, or not the usage.
What chat?
In the YouTube chat for the people. So okay. I posted the fantasy points per minute. If you care, that's the info we have for this season. Obviously, there's not a lot of info with Kyrie and KD off the court. And I don't completely buy it all because the highest sample size is Cam Thomas at 144 minutes. And I think some of that is from earlier in the year more so. So that's one of the kind of concerns that I have with the information. But you can do what you want with it, right? I think overall, though, things that I'm noticing, I think Ben Simmons becomes a really great play. I think he's going to be someone that I want to look at. I think Nick Claxton, you can make good cases for with his usage numbers. I believe his numbers are, and I have them right here. Claxton's a 1.35 fantasy point per minute in 50 minutes. Simmons is 1.28 in 75 minutes. Problem with Claxton is he's 7K and he's at that center spot where there's a lot of options you can go to. The next guy up is Edmund Sumner, who's at a 1.15 fantasy point per minute in the 102 minutes that he's played. The thing that's nice about Sumner is if he starts, I feel very confident in him. I think that's going to be really important. They started playing Markieff Morris a little bit more, and we know he's willing to chuck. 1.06 fantasy point per minute in 62 minutes. Then Patty Mills, and it is a Patty Mills revenge game, so that could be intriguing. 140 minutes, he's at 1.03. Seth Curry, despite having a 30% usage rate in 91 minutes, is a 0.93. Cam Thomas is at 0.88. Then it's David Duke at 0.81. TJ Warren was lower than I thought, but he's someone that chucks the ball, and he busted last time. And at 5.2K, I actually think that TJ Warren with Kyrie out is a really sneaky option that I'm definitely going to be considering for sure, because I don't think projections are going to push him as much. If he had another big fantasy game, I think they would have bumped those rates a little higher. So then you got Joe Harris, who's at 0.66 in 85 minutes. The question for him is, does the three-pointer fall? I think he shot 8 threes last game. He chucks the ball up a ton. So if the shot falls, great. But if it doesn't fall, like similar to Seth Curry and TJ Warren, you're probably going to have some pretty bad outcomes because they do not pick up a ton of peripherals. And because those guys don't pick up peripherals, the guys who do are Ben Simmons for sure. And another guy who I'm not buying the fantasy point per minute numbers on is Royce O'Neal. Royce O'Neal is going to play like so many different roles tonight. He's going to be at like you can put him at the 1 if you really wanted with Ben Simmons on the floor, put him at the 2, the 3. You can even put him at the 4 at times if you really want to. Royce O'Neal is going to play a pile of minutes. He actually had the lowest fantasy point per minute. And yeah, that's concerning, but the guy is going to play 40 minutes. He has 5.5K, so the price has gone up a bit. So that's something to think about. But overall, there's a lot of really good plays here for me. But if Kyrie ends up being in, that is something that could be concerning, right? A lot of these guys that we talked about, there's more fragility in their projections then. So, and I think they're still going to get pounded on the team. So Kyrie news is really important, and ownership's going to be really important on how to handle these guys. The guy I think that could be really overlooked is TJ Warren for sure. The guy, if Kyrie's out, that I'm going to be like just adjusting quickly so I get ahead of everyone if this news comes late, is Edmund Sumner. I feel like he'll be the starting point guard. He's cheap, and he's someone that I'll want to get onto my lineups and might actually help me to spend up for someone like Jokic on this slate.
Great breakdown. A couple questions for you. First, let's touch on the Spurs side before I even get to Nets questions.
Yeah.
You didn't touch on that.
That'll be quick. I think I agree with DC. Trey Jones and Podol I prefer over Keldon Johnson, but the issue is none of those guys are forward eligible, right? And like forward is like not this like glamorous spot today. So that's kind of one of the reasons you might see Keldon pushed on the teams a little more than some of these other options. But and I'm still trying to figure out what to do with my center spot. I feel like there's so many good center plays today that it's a great spot to be different. So I really want to look at ownership. Like when we get off the show, right? And once all the news falls, I really want to try and get a little bit different at my center spot just because I think there's so many guys that you can go to that are great plays, and some really good ones are going to get under-owned naturally because you only have the center spot and the utility spot to really use those options for sure. And I could see it easily being a double center night as well, Title. And Trey Jones, like DC said, really good option. And the Nets, like without KD, and I'm not saying Kyrie has great defense, but mainly without the KD situation, all these other guys out there, the defense is going to get a lot worse. So you will see, I believe, a pretty high-scoring game out of this one. And I think these Spurs options can't be completely ignored. So I'd say Trey Jones is probably my favorite, followed by Podol. But Josh Richardson is another one that I'll mention quick that I kind of talked about in my thread. There's a really interesting point about him. He is, I believe he's guard and forward eligible. Let me just double check because that matters for him, because if he's pushed on a lot of teams, that could be important. Yeah, he's shooting guard and point guard eligible. And the thing that I like about Josh Richardson is if you think this game is going to be a blowout, then you should not like him because he will not get that closeout run and probably will not start. Romeo Langford typically starts and does not close the game. Also, Doug McDermott is questionable, and he has closed some of those games as well. So if for some reason Doug McDermott sits, that actually helps Josh Richardson's opportunity to close even more. So if you think this game is a close game, Josh Richardson will close the game and be safer and secure. So consider that when you're kind of building out your lineups with Josh Richardson.
Couple points perhaps in the favor of Ben Simmons. I think this applies mostly it applies either way. Spurs have allowed the most points in the restricted area of any team in the entire league, which is essentially the only place Ben Simmons can score at this point in his career. They've allowed the second most steals in the league. Again, another thing that you want with Ben Simmons, and the third most transition points in the entire league. So that's all Ben Simmons, right? I mean, those are the things that you kind of need for him to get going on the offensive end.
And another thing to consider with Ben Simmons, DC, like I think the center position is super valuable tonight. But if you find a team that grades out really well and he's in the utility spot or maybe like in the center spot, those teams are just naturally like really different because a lot of people, again, they're going to be pounding in some of these like centers on a lot of their teams. So that's something to think about, like, hey, this is a smart team that's a little bit unique. But I love Ben Simmons. I think he could be like probably my favorite option on the Nets. And I mean, he's going to be very chalky, right? But he could be one of those like, listen, I just have to play him and I'm not worrying about it on the Nets side.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, Ben Simmons, exactly.
But it's the perfect game, right? We look for these like OG Anunoby is a great example, right? You want him in sloppy games, back and forth. We can grab all those stocks. Same with like a Lou Dort. You want the guys, the stock options. You want them in these like games that are just going to be sloppy. And this just screams like a great Ben Simmons game.
Yeah.
How many real points will Ben Simmons score is the real question.
8.
The question is, do you think he has more points than like steals and blocks together? That'd
if you told me he's scoring 8 points, I would play him for sure.
Marquis in chat, where can we find your thread, Mangoat? You see where it says Mangone right on his name. Put an @ right in front of that. And unless I'm wrong, Mangone, I think that's where you can find you.
It's just at Travis Mingo, and you can read through some of the tidbits that I put in. It's hard to obviously digest it. Even on this show, it's hard to digest everything and let you know what's going to happen, because one thing can change and it's tough. But just talks about a little bit of strategy and talking points to kind of get you prepared for when all that stuff happens, right? Because that's what I feel like that's what I try to do on these shows. I'm not saying, hey, do this or do that. Hey, let's get prepared for it. And then when it comes, we have to be ready to make these decisions and figure out what's going to be the best decisions for our lineups.
Yeah, my buddy, he likes playing Sundays. He throws in tournaments on FanDuel or something. He said he always checks your Twitter thread, man, and it helps him out. So doing work for the people, they love it. And yes, if I'm bringing up Twitter on this show, can't not talk about DC if we're talking Mangone. Give that man, the little mustache man down there, a follow as well.
Yeah.
Put an
I love DC's Martin Luther King Day core. It was incredible.
Put an @ right in front of right in front of Draft Sheet, and you can find him as well. Very entertaining stuff over there. That's those first two games on the slate. Again, 4 games. First game, Toronto, Milwaukee. Second game, Nets, San Antonio. Everyone's going to the Bucks. A lot of people are going to the Nets. The Nets Nets situation could get even better if Kyrie is out. We are waiting on news in these later games, though. Who knows if we'll get it before lock, though. But we got about 750 watching. What do we got? Likes 210 likes. Not too bad right now. Let's get 350 today, though. Plenty of people watching. 350 is a solid number. I think you guys can get us home. Probably not going to spend as much time on these next 2 games with all the ownership really going in the first 2, but we'll get through it. Like, subscribe. Thank you very much. Let's keep it rolling. 9 p.m. Eastern, an hour after the Brooklyn game. Portland Trailblazers, Denver Nuggets, 237 total. Denver is favored by 6. Justice Winslow is out on the Portland side. That is it. As far as Denver, Bones and Jamal Murray are questionable. So big news for Denver as well. Jamal is questionable. Who knows if we'll get this news? I mean, the Bucks play an hour 2 hours before, an hour and a half before this game. The Nets play an hour before the game. If we don't get this news, I'm not going to be sitting around and waiting for it. I'm not fading the first 2 games to wait for Jamal news. Paul George news is later as well. That's the 2 news we're waiting on. If we get it, though, yeah, this Denver situation could completely turn. DC, I'll start with you, though. If Jamal is out, what are you doing? If Jamal is in, what are you doing? If we don't get the news in time, are you backloading? Are you not? Jokic, Dame. I mean, lots of options in this one. Break it down.
Yeah. So Bones did leave the last game early with the ankle injury. So he, it's a real – so sometimes these guys pop up questionable, like LeBron comes to mind. They list him questionable, and you kind of know he's going to play in most cases unless it's a back-to-back or something. I do think, Bones was hurt. He did have to leave the game early, so I think there's a chance he sits. And then Jamal Murray, coming back from serious injury, they've been cautious with him all year. He was listed as probable to start the day. They moved him to questionable. So I at least think there's a chance that both of these guys end up sitting. I think Denver is kind of a cautious team in general. And if they both sit, looking through some of the numbers for the remaining Denver guys, looks pretty good. Obviously, you've got Joker. I actually don't really think he's all that affected by whether or not Jamal Murray and or Bones Highland ends up playing. He just kind of does his thing regardless. Maybe a small bump, but nothing huge. But there are players that do get pretty significant fantasy point per minute bumps if both those guys were to miss, right? Because Jamal Murray and Bones Highland both are guys that have the ball most of the time that Joker doesn't, and get up a pretty good number of shots. Bruce Brown gets a pretty big bump, becomes a good fantasy point per minute producer. The minutes would be there in that case as well. And Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. do as well. And along with Joker, I mean, that's 4 guys that are probably going to play a lot of minutes and have produced in this situation in the past over a pretty decent sample size. So I'm kind of with you. I don't necessarily want to wait for news in this game if we don't get it in time. But there is certainly a situation here where you're going to feel pretty good, with a Denver mini stack, Joker, Bruce Brown, and then probably one of Aaron Gordon or Michael Porter. And it's not like those guys are terrible plays regardless, right? You're not dead in the water with those guys even if both Jamal and Bones Highland played. So I can see the case for playing some of these Denver dudes and hoping the news breaks your way. But you'll be okay even if it doesn't, I think, or not, at least not dead. You probably wouldn't play those guys if you knew Jamal and Bones were playing. But I think most people will take the approach of kind of loading up on those first 2 games. And you could run into a situation with some low-owned, very, very strong plays on paper. Matchups obviously pretty good at home against Portland. So, yeah, kind of the more we look at it, the more we talk about it, I'm considering, saving some spots for Denver. Portland, less interest there for me for sure. Obviously, a mostly healthy team. But they do have the obvious Dame Lillard run back if you want to go there. This team has played each other 3 times already this year. Dame averaging 61 fantasy points per game over those 3 outings so far. So at least something to consider with him as well.
Yeah, I mean, Dame's trucking. The Dame, Kyrie, both great plays up there. Man, I'll go to you in this one. What stands out right away to me, Jokic, he's the guy on the slate. By far the highest raw points on the slate. There's no Giannis, no Luka, all of that. But the ownership doesn't really look to be there. Obviously, that could change if Kyrie's out. More value, safe value opens up, or Jamal, or somehow Paul George news. We get all that. But, man, right now, if we're not getting this news, you're talking center position, it's loaded. But I think you can get – I mean, he's not going to be sub 10% on a 4-game slate. But relative to these other stars, you can get pretty different right away starting to build with him. Talk about that. Talk about Jamal's stuff, Portland, the whole game.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems on this slate is, like, if you want to get different at forward and spend up, you just can't, right? It's just Kawhi only and, like, Scotty Barnes and Keldon's, like, not appealing option. So the other spot to do it is the center spot. At least that's what I'm noticing. And here's the thing. Obviously, the route to like the most tonight is, let's say Kyrie is out, right? It's playing Dame and Jrue Holiday. You're going to see a lot of teams that pound both those guys on their lineups, fill in the value plays, and call it a day. Kyrie's in, you're going to see maybe they get off of one of Jrue or Dame and go that route. So I think the spending up for one of these guards in Jrue or Dame and then spending up for a Jokic or an Embiid or some other options is a really good route to take a chance on today. So I like the Jokic idea. I agree with DC. I got the fantasy point per minute numbers on these guys. It's not a huge difference. He goes up to like 1.7 from 1.68. It's really nothing, but Jokic is going to smash no matter what. You're not really that worried about the situation at all. Bones doesn't really go up much, but I don't totally buy the sample I looked at just because, like, I know my eye test and what I've seen, and like some of those sample sizes are not really when like Murray mattered, right? If Bones slides into the starting lineup, that would be huge. He doesn't typically, though. He typically comes into the second. He typically jumps into the second unit. It kind of changes things the way he is, and he's really the primary ball handler. Instead of starting Bones Highland, they typically make sure that Bruce Brown is the ball handler with Jokic. That's kind of how they typically handle it. Bruce Brown goes from 0.88 to 0.94, and we know he's got that stock upside that can always be key. And I'm not that scared of Portland's defense. I think he could do pretty well. Michael Porter Jr. goes from 0.98 to 1.05, and then Aaron Gordon goes from 1.14 to 1.17. But those guys are going to play a pile of minutes tonight. So that's going to add up. And, of course, those are just numbers. But if you get a little hot, one of those guys can just, like, kind of break the slate. So really good options there on Denver that I don't think you want to ignore. I do want to go to Dame because I think a lot of people are just going to roster Dame tonight. I'm not saying you shouldn't not roster him, but he is getting pounded on a ton of teams because he's only 9.5K. Denver's defense is not good as well. But like I said, I think one of the big decision points is who's a better play, Damian Lillard or Jrue Holiday. I think it's going to be a really big decision point. Again, you can just play both and move on if you like, but that's going to be a decision point that I'm trying to decide between. It's going to be a very difficult one for sure, but I think they're both really, really great plays here in this spot at the guard position. It is a Jeremy Grant revenge game and a Yusuf Nurkic revenge game, so we should call that out. 7.6K for Nurkic, and he gets an amazing fantasy point per minute, and they are going to need his size in this spot, right? You can make an argument that some of these other games he doesn't play as many minutes, but let's look at Nurkic in the games that he's played. Against Dallas, where they can get a little bit smaller and kind of, make things difficult on you, Nurkic only played 20 minutes, 23 minutes, and he can get into some foul trouble at times. But with Cleveland, he played 32 minutes. Orlando, he played 34 minutes. Against, what was the other one? Toronto, he played 38 minutes. And those are games that his size is going to be needed, right? Like these teams just play big. Same with Indiana. They still play big with Miles Turner at 33 minutes. So that is something to think about with Nurkic for sure. I think his size will be needed. They're going to need to play him 30-plus minutes because he's going to have to cover Jokic, and he has upside at the price of 7.6. So I think he's a very contrarian tournament play that could be leverage off of Dame because if Nurkic drops a 50 or 60 fantasy point game, that does not allow the opportunity for Dame to have as good of a game, right? Likely Dame misses those 3-pointers and Nurkic is getting those putbacks over and over. So something to think about with Nurkic, because I think he has upside still at that 7.6K price tag, even though it's not a matchup you're dying to get to.
Yeah, and that would be another way I think you'd get different. I mean, everyone plays Dame. You go Nurkic. You hope you get he has the blow up game. Dame chalk kind of fails. A center that's different on the slate. I don't mind going the Nurkic route. What's going on, Gary? See you in chat. Jose said, "What about Ish Smith? We can't forget about Ish. Lol." I assume that's a joke. I don't even know what team he's on. So
he's on the Nuggets, and you can forget about him. I rostered him on a night slate once this year, and
you forgot about that money.
No. I actually did really well on that slate. He hurt me, but he also helped me get a lot. But he did not get the run you're hoping. Like, you need him to produce in if he gets 10 minutes, right? You need him to produce in that. If he misses those shots, you're screwed. Yes, the ball could be in his hands at times, but what you need is, I think you need a lot of those other guys to be out, like MPJ and Gordon, and then you need it to be where you have Bones in the starting lineup and then Ish is the primary backup to Bones. But the problem is he's going to play maybe 10 or 15 minutes in that situation, and you're not getting that situation tonight. So do not play Ish Smith. Save yourself some money tonight.
Yeah, now somehow Jamal's going to be out, Bones going to be out, Ish is going to have a career game somehow.
You trashing him. I just clicked him into my lineup. I know how this works. I know how this goes down.
Hey, I was reminding the people too. We exactly know how it goes.
It's so hard to click tonight. Like
you would definitely need Jamal and Bones to be out. I will say.
I do think he's an okay play if both those guys are out though.
Maybe on the night slate, but yeah, you need both those guys out.
I mean, as Mr. Patrick Rice says, I would just jam in point Bruce Brown if those two are pulled out. But I mean, somehow he gets in foul trouble. Ish outscores them. Crazier things have happened.
And the key with Bruce Brown is you get a point guard at the small forward position, right? Which is so nice to get at 5.1K. And he's not the true point guard. We know Jokic is, but they play so well off each other. And let's say Bones is running hot. Bones could easily close the game. And then they could just say, MPJ, you sit on the bench. We don't want you in there. And they plug in Bruce Brown in that role. So he likely is just closing too, which makes him a great play.
Yep, Adam G in chat. Whose titles play of the day? Well, we got one game left, almost 800 watching, 265 likes. What does that math come out to? 85 likes, I believe that is the number. 350 likes is what we need. So 85 likes to get the play of the day.
Yeah, title. Listen, these people can get the play of the day home, right? And we have a free up the lock show today, right? I mean, a free up the lock show on Watch Playback. All you gotta do is make it account. So it's we're giving out so much free stuff today. You got to hit the like, because I'm not giving the plays of the day away. If the number is 349 and you're about to sign off, we'll just take all the heat and we'll just get out of here.
Hey, I like that. Yeah, I mean, with about 800 watching, we definitely could get this number. So 350, and Mango did mention that today, the Up to Lock show, we're doing on the playback. If you guys haven't checked out playback and you're a member, you do have to be a member. Don't you have to be a member to even? Yeah, you have to be a member to even get in playback, though.
No, you don't. You don't have to be a member. So all you have to do. So all you have to do is you go to Watch Playback, and you have to make an account over there. So make an account, and all you have to do in order to, you can watch the Up the Lock show for free, right? You don't need to have a TV provider. If you're someone on an illegal stream, right? Big T is going to tell you to stop being poor and sign up and buy a TV package, YouTube TV, or
NBA
something
League
like
Pass.
That. But so yeah, buy or NBA League Pass, one of those things. But you get to sweat the games with them, right? They're going to be talking about the games. Some of us will jump in and hang out. So it's a really fun time. They'll be answering all your Up the Lock questions over there today. So make sure, don't go to the normal Up the Lock spot. Make sure to do that. And Bill is asking for the link to the Up the Lock show. It'll be posted on the Twitter. It's Watch Playback Rumpier Sports. It'll be posted.
Big T quoted. Yeah, it was tweeted earlier on the Rumpier Sports Discord. Big T tweeted or quoted the tweet. So you'll be able to find it on Twitter.
I will post it in the chat as well. I will post it now, but make sure to grab it. It's playback.tv Rumpier Sports, and I will post it now for you so it's easy to grab. And if you do not have a TV provider account, like our boy Chunky says, stop being poor.
But you can also still listen to them talk. You just can't watch the game. But
yeah, you could do that. But I mean, it's not going to be fun to watch games. And don't be that guy like VIP. We're watching a national championship, right? We're having a good time, and we are on delay. Don't be the guy when it's a 3-point game and it's 2 seconds left. Don't be like, wow, Pascal Siakam hit a game-tying 3. We're behind. Don't do that. We're all watching together. Don't be VIP. He kept doing it over and over. I almost had to kick him from the chat.
Colin said it's so easy that I can do it. So, man, go and drop the link in YouTube. Listen to the takes. Watch some basketball. It will be a good time tonight going up to lock and then watching the first couple games. We're talking the last game on the slate, though. 350 is what we need for the likes. 10 p.m. Eastern, an hour after the Trailblazers game. We get Philadelphia 76ers, Los Angeles Clippers, 223 total. Clippers are favored by 2. The 76ers are healthy. Embiid, Harden, they got their full squad. As far as the Clippers, Kawhi is playing. Paul George is questionable, though. So if he is out, obviously Kawhi gets a big bump there. John Wall is still out. Luke Kennard is also out. The problem is this game's 2.5 hours after lock, 2 hours after the Nets game. We do know Giannis is out there. Kevin Durant's out. Kyrie could be out. We'll probably get Jamal Murray news earlier. So I don't know how much you can wait around for this game. DCL can continue the trend and start with you in this. Can you wait for it? What are you doing in this one? Don't think we really see much ownership in this game.
Yeah, it won't be any from me. I'll be hoping this game duds out. It's low scoring, blowout, something like that. I think Paul George is probably going to play. So he's missed 5 games, but he got into full practice yesterday. Seems like it seemed like he was legitimately questionable in these last couple of games. Wasn't quite ready to go. I expect him to be out there, but there's no way I'm playing him coming off an injury at 9,100 with Kawhi healthy and with, probably thinking Paul George is going to come back. I can't play Kawhi at 10.3K. Honestly, I'm not that excited to play him at 10.3K, even if Paul George does sit. So, I mean, that's kind of it from the Clippers, right? I mean, Terrence Mann coming off the game of his life, but 5,700 for him. I'm not really going to go there. I just don't see a lot here. If I was going to anyone, it would probably be, I assume, a very contrarian Joel Embiid, who I think this matchup is fine for him. He's always got an enormous ceiling. Obviously, it's a little lower with Harden and Maxey both healthy. Tobias Harris in there, all that stuff. But still, those big spends, sometimes just going the contrarian route on them can be a good way to go because they've all got, Joker, Embiid, Giannis. Despite what they've done over the last 2, 3, 4 games, they've all got the 70-plus fantasy point upside in any game. And so sometimes you want to jump on that ownership. That would really be my only argument for pretty much anyone in this game. I don't really see much for value. I mean, you do have John Wall out, I suppose, if Paul George missed 2. But even then, I mean, Reggie Jackson's just doing absolutely nothing, and I'm not going to pay the premium on Terrence Mann. So, yeah, I'll be honest, I really don't see much here I like.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think we see much ownership in general for the game, but, man, it's – unless Paul George somehow got ruled out, Gary thinks he plays too. I don't see much. Someone in chat's talking about Zubac, man, going. Any Zubac love?
It is such a good slate at center that I can't play Zubac. Like I can't. It's if you win with Zubac, congrats. They will need his size though, right? Like good luck just letting Embiid do whatever he wants, go in that small ball lineup. If they are trailing, they'll go to that small ball lineup to try and just keep up, but it's going to get pretty difficult. So, and someone did say in the chat, TJ, hope they start Melton again. They did start him, which was really odd, and brought Maxey off the bench. So that is a totally different scenario. Also, Melton he's questionable and did miss shoot around due to a non-COVID illness, but he's expected to play. So I'm not too worried about it, but you could have some random news that pops up. Will I plan for it? No, I will not plan for it. Maybe I'll play the showdown slate and kind of take advantage of it there, but not going to mess around with that at all. I talked about it before. Kawhi Leonard at 10-3. He's certainly in play if you want to spend up for forward and be different in that way. I think that's perfectly fine if you want to get different that way. I'm not dying to do that. I'll say that. It's not something I'm going to gravitate towards. If the projections push it more because Kyrie's out and I don't realize it, then maybe I'll get on it if I think he's going to be low owned, but that's going to be the key for me. It's all an ownership thing. That's just really it. And if Paul George got ruled out early, it'd make me more excited to kind of get there. So yeah, overall, Kawhi is in play as a contrarian spend up option. I don't know what to do with the rest of these like Sixers. Like Harden could easily pop off for a big game. I'm not dying to get there. If anything, it's Joel Embiid at 11-3 as a contrarian spend up option. But I think Jokic will just be my contrarian spend. I'm only playing one team on DK tonight, so I think it could be him. Maybe on FanDuel it ends up being Embiid as an option. I'm going to play on FanDuel as well. But Overall, this is a game I don't need to slam onto my teams. I'll let the projections tell me. If one of these guys falls in as the last piece, perfectly fine. But I'm not saying I'm Xing it off the slate. I don't think you need to, but you don't need to prioritize anyone from this game and don't need to wait on that Paul George news. It's just not necessary.
For sure. We got 338 likes. I'm going to bounce a question off Mangone, maybe bounce a question off DC. I'll check the YouTube after. Mangone made it pretty obvious. No Sweet Travis play of the day at 349. Got to hit 350.
Yeah, that's not happening, Title. Make sure you hit this like right now because we're getting up out of here. We've done enough free stuff for the day. We got a free up the lock show. We're not giving it away unless we get it home.
Yeah, Mangone's not. He was already working overtime for everyone on Twitter, too. He's not messing around today. So I'll look on YouTube after I ask these guys a question. We get 350. We'll get you the plays of the day. Mangone, a question for you. Multiple, 3 people in chat. Brittany, Bill, and Chunky Blue. Robert Covington, Rocco. Thoughts on him?
No, so listen, I talk about these with my friends, right? Like I talk about it in my content, my single entry 3max. I want to find ways to be different, but I want to find slight ways to do it. Is Robert Covington the slight way to be really unique? I don't think so. If you want to get unique on these slates, I much prefer finding someone that's way higher owned than they should be and being like, wow, that's someone that I think is a bit overrated at that projection and ownership, and I'll fade him, and maybe I'll fade this option, or I'll just find a slightly different route. Like I said before, a lot of people are going to build their lineups with Drew Holiday and Damian Lillard. So maybe I'll just go grab a spend-up center, and then I can play good plays around it. Another great example is like in NFL this weekend. You could have just looked at that Vikings-Giants slate or game and said, oh, let me just fade this game completely and I'm different. Well, then you're absolutely dusted, right? You still need to get some type of exposure to it and find a way to make it different. Maybe it's making some really big fades that people aren't expecting. Like maybe it's, fading like Justin Jefferson, right? You play that Giants and Vikings game and fade Justin Jefferson, you're instantly different. Think about all those Giants and Vikings teams and how they could be. Let's say you decide to load up on the Bucks. You know how you're instantly different? Fading Drew Holiday. I'm not saying you should do it. I'm not saying it's the right route. But what I am saying is that is instantly going to make you unique and give you a different path than the field right away. And you can pound in those really good plays.
Great breakdown there. If you like what Mangone does for work, hey, check out Run Pure Sports. He has his own thing, 3-entry, single entry. He gives multiple core plays. He gives his slate breakdown, single entry, 3-entry stuff. Breaks it all down. He has value tiers. I mean, the whole thing. He does it for MLB, for NBA, NFL, college football as well. Mangone's always working. He's grinding single entry, 3-entry. So if that's the contest you play, make sure you check that out. It is behind the paywall, though. You do have to head over Run Pure Sports. DC, I got no questions for you, man. Mangone answered them so well. It's time to look at these YouTube likes. 367. You will be getting the Sweet Travis play. We appreciate it very much. I will start with myself, though, first with the SO play of the day. I am going to the San Antonio Spurs. I don't see any ownership going there. I want to give someone 10, 15%. Get you different on this 4-game slate with a lot of chalk. Give me Trey Jones at 6.5K. Expect an up-tempo game. I just am a big fan of Trey Jones. Can fill it up in all 3 areas. Get some stocks too, but points, assists, rebounds, has triple-double upside. And I don't see much ownership at 6.5K. Will have the ball in his hands a ton. So Trey Jones, get a little different on this slate. The SO play of the day. Let's go, DC. Mom's basement play of the day, DC. Who do you got?
Yeah, we're going to go to Denver to Bruce Brown, who I think even worst case scenario, right? For him, worst case scenario would be Jamal Murray and Bones Highland both end up playing. He's fine at 5,100, right? He's still a totally fine play at that price point. You can play him at guard or forward. And he does also give you options, right? Say Jamal Murray sits and Bones slides into the starting lineup. You can, pivot if you want from Bruce Brown to Bones Highland. I'm not saying that's necessarily the correct thing to do, but it is an option. And then you've got Michael Porter up at 5,400 if you play him at forward that you could move off if you wanted to as well. So kind of gives you a lot of flexibility. But for myself, I'll probably end up sticking with him regardless of what happens with Denver. I do think, however, if both Jamal and Bones Highland miss, which I think is a decent chance of that Bruce Brown would really be someone you would want at 5,100. So he'll be the mom's basement player of the day.
Absolutely agree with that. Someone in chat, let me get the name. Bill B said that Paul Blart's play of the day. That's what we got over here with DC. Anyone ask who you know Paul Blart is? Yes, I do know who Paul Blart is. Don't worry about it.
Have you ever seen the movie?
Mall Cop. That's the
Yeah,
Paul
but have
Blart
you seen
movie.
it?
Yeah, of course.
No, I've never seen it.
No,
I've
it's a
never
great.
seen it either.
I love them. Yeah, that's one of the only times you'll ever get me watching a movie that the other two people on the show have not watched.
Your movie's got to be terrible. There's just no way.
Stop
That's
it.
a movie you sign up for, and you're like, I'm not expecting an Academy Award from it, right?
Well,
Like,
when you're
Yeah,
a kid,
but-
like this was like when I was like on road trips as a kid going somewhere, you put it on the back and you're watching Paul Blart Mall Cop. Come on now, that's a
Yeah.
great.
that
You're
makes
a little
me
younger than us.
really
so,
old.
okay.
Yeah, I am. I definitely am a little younger than you. We'll keep it rolling though. Mangone, best for last after this great work today. Sorry, DC. He beat us today. He got the golden star from the teacher ahead of you and I. Mangone's been on top of it. Give us a winner, the sweet Travis play of the day.
Yeah, I'll even give out two, right? Just 'cause I think the flipping the build route today is playing one of these spend up guards and then playing Nikola Jokic. Now it feels like a cop out to say Jokic is the play of the day, so that's why I don't want to just give you that. I think Kyrie is going to sit, and even if he doesn't sit, I think it's a really good play. I think projections are accounting for it. He was my play of the day a week ago. It was TJ Warren, and he did great against Boston. I'm in on TJ Warren once again. 5-2 feels uncomfortable. Projections might not like it as much. He shot 18 times with Kyrie in. He probably will not start, but he will be out there chucking a ton. And if the game does blow out, wouldn't be shocked if TJ Warren is in there, chucking it up a ton. So give me a Jokic as that flip the build spend. And if you don't want to go with that route and you want to find a contrarian mid-tier forward instead, we'll go with TJ Warren as my play of the day. And I'll also throw this in. If you are trying to sign up for Run Pure Sports, there's no promo codes right now, but use that code DC15. It gets you 15% off your next payment.
Paul Blart 15 gets you 15% off. Yeah, DC it is though. Help him out over here. We got Thomas in chat. Mall Cop is bad. So yeah, maybe. I mean, it was good when I was 13 years old, 12 years old. So maybe it's not a movie that you guys would enjoy. Holden talking. He's seen Paul Blart, but he's not seen Star Wars, Godfather, all this. Godfather, I don't think I've seen. I've heard very good things. I do know that's a popular one. Star Wars, I'll go to my grave. Star Wars is cheeks. Seen like 22 seconds of it. Never watching that again. So Holden, I ain't wasting my time with that. But that's enough with that. The playback show, the guys will be going live. It is free today. If you're in the Discord, we'll drop the link there. You do have to, it's a free account. When you sign up, you don't have to pay anything. It's on Twitter as well, Run Pure Sports. Big T also quoted the tweet there. But get in the live show chat. I think they'll still be answering questions there. 4-game slate. News will probably hit on the show. That'll be important. Kyrie news, Paul George, Jamal Murray. Let's see some RPS logos up top. We'll see in the live show chat. That's going to do it for us, though. For Mangone, DC, I'm Titletown. Good luck, everybody.